Yeah. What's up, YouTube? And yes, my hairdo is inspired by the 1990s movie Singles, starring Ethan Hawke. Okay. Not really. I need a haircut. I know it. It'll happen. COVID, laziness, claziness, as it were. Yeah. I'm Taylor. This is what day is it? Hang on. I'm really prepared for this one. March 3rd. It's March already. It's kind of warm out here, and yeah, this is my weekly comic book review show where I weekly review weekly comics. Okay, no, not weekly comics. I review the comics I bought this week. Yeah, that's better. That's English. English is a tricky ass language, even when you grow up speaking it or muddling your way through it like I did. Yeah, let's just get into this. My intros are getting worse and worse and worse. I do these in order, in case you didn't know when you're first time watching. If it's your first time watching, welcome. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe, hit the notification bell, and back to our scheduled programming. I do these in order, sort of. Worst to best-ish. It's a rough organization. It's just kind of my gut feeling as far as, like, what I thought after reading the entire stack, and then I stack them, and, I'm like, how did I feel about that one? So, without further ado, here we go. Gwen versus Carnage number 3. This is the last issue of this mess. Thankfully, the art doesn't do anything for me. The story got worse and worse as it went along, and I am glad it is done. It's not going to do a whole lot. Although Mary Jane from another world had the Venomy thingy. Who cares? It is just dumb. And I like Shauna McGuire. I've read a couple of her books. I enjoy her writing normally, but not this. This was a hot mess. And it's like all of the King of Black tie-ins really doesn't do anything. Okay. Future State is over for the most part. The future is no more or is coming, but the multiverse is a thing now because Dark Knight's Death Metal Part 12 said there's now a multiverse again. Or saved the multiverse or rebooted the I don't know. Whatever. New Crime Syndicate, New Earth 3. This had the potential to be cool, but DC's got this weird fixation / whatever fetish for like alternate versions of their characters that they think are really clever and really fantastic and all that. Sometimes it works. This has just been done so much more, so often and so much better in the past. Like The Boys and Homelander and all these evil-ish heroes better than this. This is just kind of stupid. Okay, this one is not awful, but it's America Chavez, made in the USA. I don't follow this character a lot, so I don't know if this is like a retelling of her like family history or like a new revelation that like you just learned in this. I'm hoping it's a new revelation because if it's just a retelling, it's pretty dull, and her powers are on the fritz a little bit, and that's kind of all that happens. They tie in some other characters that she's interacted with before that I also have not read, but it's just not, there's nothing to this. I mean, okay, her powers are on the fritz. Okay. And someone from her past is going to be a new threat at some point, probably, because that's what comics do. Star Wars The High Republic, number 3. This is the one everyone's specking on, right? Because it introduces a new bad person person. It's okay. I mean, the writing of this has just been kind of clunky throughout. It's just kind of, I wouldn't even say ham-fisted. It's just kind of awkward. It doesn't flow very well. And the art's okay. Art's fine, I guess. But, like, I don't know if it's the art direction or the script or whatever, but even some of that doesn't have a good flow to it. And I know this is, like, the big push Marvel's doing. The High Republic, it's set, pre-Star Wars. And it's supposed to, like, be the era where the Jedi are great and good and wonderful. It has setting something in that time period had the potential to be really fun and really interesting. And just to me, it's just not. Like, I see where they're going with this, and I get what they're trying to do, and I get all of that. It's just kind of, I don't know. I'm struggling to care. I will keep up with this, but it's just, nah. All right. Chariot, number 1, by Upshot Studios, AWA, blah, blah, blah. Brian Edward Hill, Priscilla Petraides, and Marcus Lesko. Okay, so in this, it's pretty heavily 90s-ish. You can sort of tell, right? 80s, 90s. So I'm going to spoil this one a little bit, just a little, because I doubt on his luck, but good-natured thief finds a talking car. Yeah, that's Knight Rider, right? This is just Knight Rider all over again with a much less cool-looking car. I mean, the car's a little more brutal than Knight Rider, but it's Knight Rider. Just not as cool as Knight Rider. Okay, this has a really cool cover, right? I dig the cover. Dead Dog's Bite. There's somebody that's missing. Oh, wait, okay. Here's the problem. If you immediately forget what's going on in the book, then that's not great, right? So somebody died, I think. There's an overarching fourth wall breaking narrative that might or might not be real. 9-panel grid. There's some snarkiness in here. There's some okay stuff. It has the potential, but there's just not a whole lot in this one really that does a thing. It's so. I don't know. I'm having trouble even talking about it because it's one of those I read it and I immediately forgot. Did somebody die? Did somebody get kidnapped? Did something happen? It didn't stick with me. Nothing in this really stuck other than there's a few moments of bantery dialogue that were kind of clever, but not enough to do anything. Speaking of clever bantery dialogue, this one's a little bit better, I think. I like the art. It's a unique art style by Ferreira, and Matt Rosenberg's doing the writing. This is kind of a fun take on the Thunderbolts. This is the best issue of this thus far, I believe, and it's the last issue. There's potential in this for them to bring it back because it wouldn't be Marvel if there weren't potential for them to bring it back. This is again a King in Black tie-in where nothing ever really is going to happen with King in Black, but this plays on that, and it kind of there's a little self-winking nod to some of that in here, and the characters are all just kind of dicks, and I like that. You'll see later on the list. There's another comic that does it better, but I still enjoy when characters are just kind of dicks to each other. So, take it for what it's worth. That probably says a lot about me. Batman 106, cool cover, great art by Jorge Jimenez. James Tynion IV. His Batman run is just kind of dull, and this is no exception. The Ghost Makers are now a part of Batman's life, and they're broing it out as bros do. They're bro-tastic, bro-licious, bro, whichever. Yeah, they're doing that. And the Scarecrow gets a new costume that doesn't look very practical. But nothing else. Just nothing. And I don't expect everything to be, progress things forward, but it's just so light and fluffy. It's kind of like eating a Krispy Kreme donut. You're not really full afterwards, and you feel a little bit sick. Okay, Suicide Squad #1. I've not followed the Suicide Squad. Apparently, this is a new take on the Suicide Squad, where they're more squaddier and less suicide. I don't know. Whatever. Peacekeeper, Peacemaker, Peace. The guy with the dumb helmet. This guy, John Cena, whatever. Ernest Goes to Camp. The guy that started to turn into him. He's in charge now. It's not bad. There's some brutality and some evilness and some wickedness to it, and the characters are just kind of dicks to each other. So I enjoy that. Again, it's the theme of the week: dicks to each other, together dicks. Yeah. Art's good. I liked it quite a bit actually. There's the talent in it, who I think's from Batman. Again, I think Court Owls maybe. I don't. Maybe a bad guy. It's from an era of comics I wasn't really reading, and I just kind of got back into it. So I'm trying to fill in some of my gaps. Some of them are just going to remain gaps because I don't have the energy to go hunting all this crap down. So, yeah, not bad. I'm going to keep up with this one. I don't know if it's a limited series. It probably is because everyone seems to die in Suicide Squad, hence the name. So I'll stick with it for a bit. Okay, these are probably a little out of order. Yeah, let's do this. Okay. Star Wars The High Republic Adventures. This is sort of the young adult version or kiddie version of Star Wars High Republic. It's better than the actual one. And it's not just because it has characters you recognize like Yoda and a few anchor points that kind of help bring in the audience, which is nice. It's got what I think is more compelling artwork for the most part. There's a few panels that are kind of clunky. And then the characters are just more interesting, and what's going on is just more interesting. Like, not everybody loves the Force, and this plays upon that, even though it's apparently in the High Republic time where you're supposed to all be super fans of the Republic. Um, yeah, and this is just overall a better book than Star Wars: The High Republic. Fight me in the comments, people. Fight me in the comments. This is pretty interesting. Scott Snyder and Tony Daniel. Noctura. What if the lights went out on the world, and what if you stayed in the dark, you turned into a monster? Anything living turns into a demon-y type thing. And so now the people that are left years later have to cope with it. That's an interesting premise. Like, Scott Snyder always has interesting, grand ideas, I think, and this is no different. Well, it is a different idea, but just his ability to do that is no different. Yeah. The character design, also really pretty interesting. Tony Daniel's on the top of this game in this artwork in here, and I just dig this kind of creepy cover, which is not by Daniel, but no thanks. It's by a scribbly person. Somebody with a scribbly, yeah. This one, it was a Kickstarter project at first, and it gained some steam, and now Image picked it up and is making it, which I'm glad of, because I really like this one. It's a lot of fun, and it's the plot, nothing crazy new. I mean, there's only so many stories you can tell according to Joseph Daniels. The hero redemption heroes arc, blah blah blah. But the main character's protagonist, anti-hero, whatever you want to call her, has an interesting backstory, and you get it told pretty well, pretty quickly. And there's an interesting maybe villain in this that's not the bad guy, that's not the dark demon-y things that I just talked about. So I recommend this one. Not quite my book of the week, but that's just because it's been a pretty darn good week for comics, and there's some other things in here that I really liked. So you can't go wrong with it, though. I mean, you could if you didn't like it, but all right. Do it a little more rearranging, guys. This is what happens when I just stack these by gut. Yeah, that feels a little better. Yeah, it's better. Okay. DC's Infinite Frontier. This is sort of what happens when, DC tries another new thing or goes back to the same old thing with new sort of direction. And so they feel they need to put together one of these, anthology stories that sort of checks in on everybody and lets you know what they're up to and what's going on and what's the haps, peeps? That's current lingo, right? But this is not badly done. It's a $6 issue. It just sort of lets you know, and there's actually maybe a first appearance in here, or maybe two. Maybe we're picking up for that. But it is kind of it's like a delicious sandwich with lots of cold cuts in it. It's got a framing device that's okay. You don't really need it. But there's a couple page stories in here that let's sort of remind you of who the main characters are and some of the changes that have happened since the end of Dark Knight's death metal. And yeah, I thought I was gonna hate this because I tend to hate that kind of comic where it's like, hey, this is what we're doing with the entire universe. But this was okay, not fantastic, but it was okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah, let's do this. All right, fear case number 2. More fear, less case. There's this magical-ish case that causes people to do evil things if they don't hand it to their worst enemy. It'll go and do something horrible to their best friend or person closest to them. FBI are on the trail of it, trying to figure it out. It's an urban legend. Everyone has to stay on the case for a year. Sorry, that's a spoiler. I know, but if you had your chance to read the first issue. If you haven't, tough to see toenails. And this follows along after the kind of horrific events at the end of the first issue. Art is really kind of loose and gritty. Sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. Who is it? Hillary Jenkins? Oh, Tyler. Tyler, I can't. Yeah, okay. Has an issue with cars. I do too. I mean, cars are a pain in the butt to draw. The characters are also getting a little bit muddy, where it's hard to sort of tell them apart. They're just really sketchy. And really sketchy can work if you have the mastery of it. Like Jeff Lemire does really sketchy characters, but they really work. This sometimes does. I do appreciate the general art style and the general sketchy grittiness of it. It kind of fits the story, but it's just a little more clarity in some of the facial characteristics would be helpful. If anything, the storytelling ability of the art is a little bit of the weak point too. Not a ton. It's just not one of the strengths. The story itself is pretty interesting. Matt Kint, who's also further down on this pile again, weaves an interesting horror yarn, and this is an interesting premise. I love the covers. The covers are great, and I love the general idea of it. I think it's a 4-issue thing. I'll keep it up. I mean, it's definitely in the this part of the stack is, yeah, I'll keep it up. So this one, I expected to hate this next one. But Demon Days #1 by Peach Momoko. This is not the Peach Momoko cover. This is the art term cover. I just like the art term cover, so I picked it up. The Peach Momoko tells a retelling of a blending of X-Men with Japanese mythology, and like with her art style and stuff, it actually really works pretty well. Like her take on Venom's pretty cool. Her take on the Hulk I liked a lot, and her take on Psylocke also pretty interesting, and Logan for that matter. It's sort of a stranger comes to town kind of Kurosawa tale, I guess. That's been stolen by everybody, like the Clint Eastwood, all those stories, the Italian the spaghetti westerns and all that. But through Peach's lens, she wrote it, she drew it, everything else did. Everything else did. That's my technical term. And I sometimes don't like her art, but it really fits this tale, and I think it's shows she actually is more than just a cover artist, and like she's got to flex a bit of her writing talents here, and I appreciated it. So I will keep it up. I'm looking forward to the next one. I think she's doing a 4 or 5 issue miniseries. So yeah, pleasantly surprised. Okay, Firepower #9. This is a lot of this. Like the first half of this is pretty wordless and a fight sequence in midair, so that's cool. Chris Samney does great fight sequences. He really does. His art style is pretty simplistic and almost borderline too simplistic, but you can mostly tell his characters apart. What he's really excels in is telling the story and moving from panel to panel and transition to transition and having good action sequences in there. And this, like, Kirkman's playing to his strengths with this. And Kirkman, you can tell is having a fun time. This is kind of playing on a lot of, like, kung fu tropes and a lot of action adventure tropes and, like, twisting and turning, allegiances shifting, and plots going all over the place, and bad guys, and grand stakes. The world's at stake because White Wind, isn't it? I'm enjoying this. I know enjoy is my word I overuse, but like it's true. This one it's been consistently good from day one, and it's still consistently good. All right, we're getting to the bottom of the stack, people. Hellions #10. Arcade is in this one. It's the start of an arcadey issue. Some of the arcadey stuff's a little unbelievable, but I mean it's X-Men comic, and this is the last of the dicks being dicks to each other. Dicks being dicks to each other. The teammates are all dicks to each other in this, and this is Mr. Sinister's leading a team. So what do you expect? He's the King Dick, Dick King of all dicks, Schlong King. Tangents. Zeb Wells has made me give a crap about these characters, which is kind of impressive because I didn't know who half of them were when I started reading this. I still don't know the backstory. I just don't need to chase it all down because like what I'm gleaning from this tale is enough for me. And he's made me actually like Mr. Sinister, and I never cared before, never ever, truly ever, and it's an impressive feat. Hellions is probably the best X title going right now, in my humble opinion. And here we go. Another one that like I didn't expect to like as much as I did because, well, celebrities. Am I right, people? They're just like us. Berserker. How do you say it? Berserker. Yeah, Berserker. #1. Keanu Reeves, Matt Kent, Ron Garney, and Bill Crabtree. This is a lot of fun. I mean, it's ultra violent. It's like you can tell Keanu just wanted to write himself being a badass and fighting some stuff and ripping hearts out and having a great romp while doing it. And that's what he did. And then Matt Kent, I think, cause probably I don't know where the lines are blurred and who did what as far as their writing partnership goes, but like it's wrapped in a pretty well written package and. The tale's ridiculous, but it's a fun ridiculous, and the fights are ridiculous in a fun way. And the art is actually pretty decent as well. Ron Garney is channeling his inner Frank Miller meeting John Romita Jr. in a big way. And it's like he's definitely wearing his influences on his sleeve. And like some of the I think some of the panels are straight lifted from like Dark Knight Returns. Heavier inking job than some of that, and like the characters and the facial features and some of the other stuff pretty heavily, you can tell John Romita Jr. also a big influence. And it all seems to work, and I'm really looking forward to seeing where this goes next. It's probably going to be a movie. Pick a copy up. They made 600,000 of them. I wouldn't go chasing down all the 12 billion variants unless you want to spend $5,000 and get one of the One signed by Keanu. But yeah, that is a fun comic. And last and certainly not least, my favorite book of the week, Swamp Thing #1 by Raum V and Perkins. I can't remember the Perkins' first name. I'm not going to open it up. I'm too lazy. But this, you get a new Swamp Thing, and it's and a new villain, and a whole new adventure romp. It's not an adventure romp. It's a horror movie book, and it really kind of harkens back to the old school '70s, like '60s, '70s, or Bernie Wrightson, that kind of era of like Swamp Thing when it was more of a horror book than they've turned the character into as of late. But yeah, it's a new human is either the host or is no longer human or whatever. The Swamp Thing's always kind of murky on that. And they don't give you everything in this issue. That's fine. What they do give you is great. The art is gritty and detailed enough to like really make it fit the story. And I'm really interested to see where they go with this. See how they develop the new Swamp Thing character, and see more of the backstory and more of the future story, because there's an intriguing new idea too of like a new maybe bad guy that might not be a bad guy. It just sort of depends upon where this heads. I think it's a 10-part series, and it is my book of the week. So there you guys have it. I probably missed a few things. I read as much as I can. I really do. I mean, that's a big stack of books. But if I did miss something important and you think I should read it, let me know in the comments down below. If you hated all of my picks, also let me know in the comments down below. But yeah, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. And yeah, as always, don't be a dick.